Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to the Mind Warp podcast. Always great to have you with us, and thank you for making the time to listen to our podcast. We at Mind Warp always speak with interesting guests, and I'm sure you'll find today no exception. At Mind Warp, we bring together the confluence of technology and of innovation, specifically in the mining industry, but not only in the mining industry. And we want to see how we can warp our minds and yours for the next half an hour or so. New things, interesting and valuable things in the mind. So today I've got two guests with me. One of them is Jannie Potgieter. Jannie is the CEO of Collaborate, one of MineRP's partners, and I'll let him introduce himself in a minute. And my other guest is Okkert van Skalkwyk, SAP guru and also a guru in general with MineRP. Certainly someone who is no stranger to implementing ERP solutions in the mining industry as well. So before we start talking about all the interesting things we want to talk about in the world of enterprise asset management and related fields of value today, let's quickly meet our guests in more detail. Jannie Potgieter, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be with Collaborate?
MP, Okkert, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be with you guys. The life stories get longer, and we have to condense it more and more as we get older. And my theory, why we all experience time going past quicker as we age. In any case, I grew up in a small little town on the Vaal Triangle, Vanderbijl Park, which is best known for the East Coast Steel Plant, today known as ArcelorMittal. Completed my studies there. Then in 96, I moved to Richards Bay, to ADUSAF. Later became part of BHP and today part of South 32. That's where I first got introduced to SAP as a business analyst on the plant maintenance side. Spent 3 years at Bayside Aluminium, the one of the two plant smelters there in Richards Bay. They have since closed down. Technology changed so much, and simply wasn't feasible to run that plant anymore. In any case, in 99, I joined AST, today known as D.I.M.E, and found myself back in Vanderbijl Park on the East Coast Steel project. So, just a 360 there. And that's where I first met Okkert. Okkert was a project manager at AST and part of the East Coast project. And we since worked together on quite a few other projects. Exaro, I think, was the last one, Okkert, in 2012, 2013, if I remember correctly, Exaro Resources. Yeah, and I think during my time at AST, it seemed to me that there was a gap really between the system implementation versus the subject matter. I found that many of the consultants pretty much had either a strong systems background or a strong subject matter background, and in my case now, reliability engineering, asset management, physical asset management, and I've seen quite a few occasions where the two didn't come together properly and really caused quite a bit of poor implementations, I would say, because of not really applying both the subject matter and then the system design principles as well. And I decided at that point to start a company that would focus specifically on a topic, go deep into the subject matter, and combine that with SAP, and formed what is today known as Collaborate. We started off with about 15 consultants, grew that to today with several other departments, hardcore reliability engineering, EPCM, and we also since started with a software development drive in 2014. Where today we have 14 discrete solutions and around 150 reliability engineers and SAP professionals. So that's, I would say, in a nutshell.
Interesting that you referred back to the AST days. That's, of course, one place that both yourself, Okkert, and I have in common. And we all worked there in days when MineRP was still GMSI, or Global Mining Solutions International, Graphical Mining Solutions International, or Gijima Mining Solutions International. Different names at different times. Now it's very simple, MineRP. Speaking of names, where does the name Collaborate come from?
It was really for us, we were wanting to create something where a company that's, again, playing on the word collaborate,
Yes.
with and making it more of a verb and more IT specific with the IT at the end. But it was really, partners, customers, and ourselves, that we wanted to bring together in a collaborative environment. And I think especially in the last 2 years, we've seen that actually really materialize quite a bit. We've partnered in some of our projects with technology companies in the US and in China and in Europe, bringing together various components, software and hardware components. And I think, that's the nature of today's world is really collaborating, is really to take the best of the different offerings and put that together into new products, into new offerings, into new problem-solving products, I would say.
So, well, good. Over to you. Tell us a little bit about your background as well. It's not the first time that you're on the MindWarp podcast, is it?
No, I've been in one SAP integration sort of MindWarp podcast. But yeah, this is much more interesting. Starting with myself, I started out as an electrical engineer. Started with the heavy engineering stuff at ISCO Newcastle plant at the stage, and moved later to Van der Bijl Park and moved into the automation of plants and things. So I worked both in maintenance and production systems, which was really, really interesting. Moved to SAP, actually then moved to AST, as Jannie said, sort of the same time. And where we met was then at the ArcelorMittal SAP project first time. And then afterwards, we actually did quite a few other projects. And I did a few mining projects and other industries. In terms of SAP, I worked in multiple industries. Then at AST, I had my first encounter with MindRP, where I worked on a small project where we said, let's integrate MindRP and SAP. Now, at this stage, we were very young, lots of stars in our eyes, and we did the first sort of cut with integration, but integration was not ready at that stage. After the SAP stuff, I carried on in Kojima then, into the management, and at the stage ran an IT division of about 1,000 people, so really into management and people and leave forms and those sort of things. And yeah, very much. And then we went to get to the place where I said, well, it's maybe time for nicer things to do. And MindRP approached me and said, this integration thing is actually very interesting. Come and make it work now. So I started through with some of the production integration and so forth. So that worked very nice. And at this stage, I'm now 3 years already in my third year with MindRP. So quite interesting. And working with Jannie now is actually great to get to collaborate with Collaborate to actually get to some sort of answers on how we can carry forward.
Thank you. Good. So guys, you're both grey heads in this environment. You've been around the block, you've seen projects work and projects not work, but you've also seen kind of fads come and go and focus areas in business come and go. So maybe, Jannie, to you, in this world of enterprise asset management and, as you say, reliability engineering and so on, why does there seem to be a greater focus on enterprise asset management in the recent few years? What's changed? What's new in the market that there's all of a sudden this focus there?
Definitely very interesting. I mean, for the first, I would say, or let's say up until about 2008, 2009, just generally maintenance management, reliability engineering, that was really a second tier sort of discussion points within organizations. We really struggled to get the attention even from the engineering fraternity at the companies. They were very much focused on the mining engineering side of it, and in many cases were quite happy with break fix reactive type of environments.
Right.
But we've speculated about this quite a bit, and what we came to see is that the asset management area was one of the very few areas that were optimized. And, there was always a big focus on supply chain, on production, and when there was obviously the 2008 world, experienced quite a radical financial crisis. And companies were looking for optimization opportunities, and really since then it's taken off tremendously. I mean, it's just amazing to see The customers, same customers that we had, 15 years before the 2008 crisis, I would say, where now today they appoint reliability and asset management engineers specifically focused on this topic. A lot of energy and a lot of effort go into that. And I think also, technology, we absolutely see that, big data, availability of big data, the availability to process big data opened up opportunities for more predictive type of maintenance and analytics. And definitely that's in our view, has helped to put asset management, in the boardrooms where previously it was really didn't get the light of day.
So Orkut has talked about MineIP asking him to bring together SAP and MineIP, and I know there are many opportunities for that bringing together. But Orkut, certainly our focus is, or we find clients asking us to express or give them one version of the work that needs to be done. We call that a master business schedule, and that's one of the areas where you've jumped in with Elaborate as well to bring maintenance into the master business schedule. Is that right?
Yeah, MP and Jannie, there's always this tension between production and maintenance because you have the same resources, the same people, the same things. And in order to get to the answer, you need to be able to actually consolidate, to compromise all of these requirements into one thing. And that is where the master business schedule comes from. But I want to take 2 steps back and say, let's start with where does the whole business thing start or the mining thing start. And it starts with when you get into your master business and your master mining plan, where you get to a place where you say, I want to mine this area for the next 30 years, very long term, and this is where we want to go. From this, you can actually build a detailed schedule. And this is what MineIP is actually taking this big master schedule or master plan and break it down into a master schedule, which will run for a month to 3 months, taking that forward. When we get to the master business schedule, in any piece of work that you're actually doing, there are 3 things that you want to manage. You want to manage the people, you want to manage the materials that you require, and you need to manage the machines and equipment. And machines and equipment is actually more difficult because they actually have the same piece of work, which is called maintenance, that needs to be done. And the machine doesn't work without maintenance. Otherwise, it will not be available when you need it. And there are different maintenance sort of strategies where you say run your machine into the ground and then buy a new one, or fine-tuned maintenance strategy where you say we measure everything around it and the oil quality and the conditions and all of those things on the other side where you get to measure this. Now, how do you put all of these things together? Firstly, there's something called ISA 95, which is actually a standard mechanism to put people, materials, and machines and equipment together. And from this, we built a master business schedule of people. So there's now time involved, or they call it men, money, and machines, and put all of those things together to an answer. Now we also take another M and called it maintenance and put the maintenance stuff all together so that we can say, how do we integrate the different things? So we start with mining production, integrate the maintenance schedule, and take it from there. And this is where Jannie comes in with the asset management part of this, because then we can get the 2 things together.
Yeah, it almost sounds almost obvious that we want to combine maintenance and production planning, but it's really something that very few companies do. I mean, production is very much chased, and and as I said in the past, maintenance got the short end of the stick. But companies have realized more and more that there's this balance between availability and the cost and the risk of the asset, and we need to provide that view. As Orkut said, there's a lot of money that gets spent and capital spent on equipment, and companies want to know if they are getting their return. And we have a metric on the asset management side that we call OEE, overall equipment effectiveness, which is a very good metric that actually combines the production and the maintenance components. Where typically they are very much opposed. Engineering want the engineering guys and the maintenance guys want the equipment available as much as possible for maintenance, and production wants it as much as possible for production. And we have to overlay because
and
it's
the
sharing
ship
the same
the
resource.
loudest voice wins.
100%. Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly that. But also from a financial planning point of view and supply chain, I mean, the one area, especially if you look at budgets, where typically budgets are on the maintenance side, we're pretty much value based. It's last year plus 10, and then the accountants cut another 5. So you always get to that same sort of figure, and it was never where engineering said, look, production, you want the equipment available X amount of time. In order to do this, we need certain maintenance tactics, and those maintenance tactics is going to require downtime, planned maintenance downtime, but it's also going to require these activities, which translates into cost. And since we've actually started quite a while ago, probably 8 years ago, to start to generate budgets and forecasts, both for monetary and for supply chain, from maintenance tactics. So now engineering and accounting, they can at least sit and look at the same set of data that supports the budgets. So now if there are any cuts to be done, it can be translated back to risk. Okay, if you want to cut the strategy of maintenance from every 6 months to every 9 months, whatever the case might be, this is what it means in terms of risk. Are you happy to live with it? And that basically gives a lot more, I would say, puts a lot more science to the budgeting process and to the maintenance process as what it was before.
Well, you've already achieved a miracle by getting engineers and accountants in the same
Exactly.
group.
Yeah, I think
that's.
I think part of that is I'm actually the odd one out in our company. I come from an information systems and an accounting background, and I'm surrounded by engineers. So I think that's helped us a bit in that regard, is to bring the two worlds together. But then similarly on the production side, I mean, it's just amazing to see how few companies actually overlay maintenance and production planning and scheduling long-term, short-term, and on a short interval control basis. It's just not happening, and I think that's part of what we're trying to solve.
If we get to the practical side then of the work that the two of you, or I should say MineIP and Collaborate, is doing together, you guys have coined a word. You call it D.I.M.E. That's a name that you gave to a solution that we're putting together. Tell us more about D.I.M.E.
Yeah. Now, what happened is about a month or two, about 2 months ago. I think Jannie phoned me or I phoned him, can't remember, but it was one of those discussions of how's it going in COVID, are you still well, all those sort of things. And so it went into what are you doing and what are you busy with? And at that stage, I had a client where this whole thing about if you put a master business schedule together, it would actually create a lot of value together if you put maintenance, because what we are doing with this client is we're forecasting what are from a supply chain perspective, what are the materials that you're going to need in the next 3 months and so on. Now, obviously, you would like to have the same answer for production materials as for maintenance materials and take it from there. And I was talking to him and we were sort of chatting, and we said, actually, if we put these things together, we have a solution. So we said, what would we call this? And we started with, typically engineers that talk in acronyms and all those sort of things, get to some sort of answer, and everything was these long names. And so, let's call it D.I.M.E. So we got to this place and say, what is D.I.M.E.? And D.I.M.E. is Dynamic Integrated Mining and Engineering. So the mining engineering is obvious because we want to integrate it too.
Yeah.
Integrate is obviously then obvious. And dynamic is really the key to all of this. And that is, how can we make this live? How can we make it change on the fly and take it from there? And this was the thing that we were actually looking forward to and say, how can we make this work by doing the two different things together?
You guys referred to the value part of this already. So we will have the reliability focus on the one hand and the production focus on the other, and we felt that these can't meet. But now we've got a solution that can dynamically integrate this and provide one view of the business from both perspectives. But what's the value? How do mines actually get value from this practically?
Yeah, I think as Orchid said, I mean, we referred to that earlier as, it's definitely an obvious requirement, I would say, to merge the two. And I think part of the advantage that we have on both sides is that MineRP has gone down the mine planning, detailed mine plan, long-term, short-term, short interval control in a lot of detail. And what I really liked about that side as well is the visual representation, the graphical visual representation. And then on our side, we've done something similar with ACLM, what we call asset cost and lifecycle management, where we also drill into the tactics and the projections in detail on asset management side. And some companies do attempt to overlap the two worlds, but a bit superficially. And we wanted something that's a lot more dynamic. I think what we've seen is in many cases with these planning tools, doesn't matter if it's mining or maintenance or whatever the case might be, a lot of effort and manpower goes into these plans, and at the end of the day, when it gets to execution part, it gets chucked in the bin because it's not relevant anymore, and it's not dynamic enough. So I think from a value point of view, it all comes down to, again, for me, to that OEE figure. I mean, you want to utilize the equipment as much as you can at the lowest possible unplanned breakdowns or stoppages. And I mean, if we take the cost and capital cost of those equipment, we've done a couple of studies where one of our customers were looking at developing a complete new mining area to get the overall throughput out of the company. And when we started investigating availability and utilization, it was pretty soon obvious that it was actually not a requirement to develop a complete new mining area. It was purely just making the equipment more available and utilizing it as it could, because it was way off spec. And I mean, so the value, is really it's huge. I mean, there's a lot of value to be had if we look at the expensive mining equipment, and then the result if you're not making the tons. I mean, it boils down to the top KPI for any mining company, and for that matter, any manufacturing company as well.
It's not only about making the machines available for the sake of having the machines available.
Also to utilize,
One thing that excited me a lot around this as well is the fact that you can do a tactical materials forecast, a tactical maintenance forecast, and a tactical production forecast. In other words, you don't put the stuff into cement and get everything sorted. You can still plan, and everything remains flexible. And this is where the dynamic actually comes in, until as late as you can. So we can keep the maintenance schedule actually as flexible as we can until, say, a week before the time when you really want to put in the maintenance orders and put it there. So you can keep everything dynamic. Everything is planned. You can have your materials planned. You can have all of your work planned and your people planned. But there's always the last minute things that's going to change everything. And once you create SAP orders in any form, a production order or a maintenance order, whatever, it is actually cast in concrete at that stage. And once it's cast in concrete, very difficult to change. So we keep this dynamic until as late as we can, and then place the orders. And I think that's the thing that excites me a lot.
Sounds great. Gentlemen, we're running out of time. There's lots more to be said on this topic, of course. But thank you for sharing this with us. I'm sure people will want to read more about this, and they can refer to Collaborate's website, which is, Jannie?
It's collaborate.com. I mean, it would be the shortcut to it.
Okay, and MineRP, Okkert?
MineRP.com.
Excellent. So we always end our podcast by asking our guests what they are reading, what's on their bedside table. So I'll start with you, Okkert. What are you interested in right now?
I always love to travel, and during this last year, 2020, I actually missed out on a lot of that. So I did a lot of armchair travel at that stage, and looked a lot at the voetspore, called actually tracks, if you translate it, sort of TV programs. And then I bought one of those books, which is one of the, what do you call it, journey guide for South Africa. So I don't need a passport, I don't need anything. And I'm busy planning a real deep South African trip to all places that I have not been before. So that is what I'm reading at this stage.
Oh, Jannie, try and beat that.
Yeah, yeah. Mine is a bit more boring, I must add. I'm actually busy with a book called Influence. It's regarded as a classic, I understand. Robert Galdini, and it's very it's fascinating. It really boils down to sort of the triggers and motivations, the core that drives us. And I must admit, he breaks it down into 6 major triggers, I would say, and a very fascinating concept. And I think, again, sometimes you read this, when you read these these insightful books, it almost seems obvious, but I can definitely recommend this book. It's really brought a lot for me to understand a bit more what makes people tick.
That's fantastic. I hope that as your book's indicated, that we'll go far and have lots and lots of influence. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, MP. Thank you, Orchid.
Thank you, Jannie and MP. I'm very excited about this, so let's make this work.